If Steve Jobs had not been fired from Apple in 1985, Toy Story might never have existed. It was the world's first full-length 3D animated film that gave emotions to toys. Even Pixar, now a cornerstone of Disney, likely wouldn't have existed without Jobs. And all of this began with the firing of one man. In 1985, Apple was in turmoil. Revenue was growing, but the conflict between management and Jobs deepened day by day. And eventually, the board decided to remove the company's founder. From that day, Steve Jobs was ousted from the company he had built. But that very dismissal went on to create the world we know today. After leaving Apple, Jobs founded a company called Next. He aimed to build high-end educational computers, but the market reaction was cold. Then one day, he heard that Lucasfilm was spinning off its computer graphics division. Pixar, a name hardly anyone noticed. Jobs didn't hesitate and decided to acquire it. There, he became more fascinated by storytelling than by technology. He bet his entire fortune on the wild idea of making a full-length animated film using computers. Pixar initially survived by selling hardware and refining its technology through short commercial animations. Then one day, they partnered with Disney on a new project, Toy Story. In 1995, the world's first full 3D animated feature film hit theaters. A story where toys move, feel, and build friendships. Audiences were amazed, touched, and even cried. Pixar instantly rose to become the world's top animation studio. And Jobs went on to change the world in yet another field. Ironically, Pixar's success would end up reshaping Apple's fate. In 1997, Apple, facing a crisis, acquired Next and brought Jobs back. And once he returned, he began to infuse Apple with the philosophy he learned at Pixar. How to embed emotion in technology. At a time when the term user experience was unfamiliar, Jobs saw products as experiences. iMac redefined design, iPod reshaped music, and iPhone changed the way the world worked. But all of that began in Pixar, the laboratory of emotion. Now let's imagine. What if Jobs had never been fired in 1985? He would likely have stayed at Apple, continuing traditional computer development. Over time, he may have been increasingly sidelined by internal politics. Next and Pixar might never have been born. Without Pixar, Lucasfilm's CG division would have scattered, and visionaries like John Lasseter would have taken different paths. Disney might have clung to 2D animation and failed to break out of its post-Lion King slump. The rise of 3D animation would have been delayed much longer. Without Toy Story, children wouldn't have formed emotional connections with toys. WALL-E might not have shown us humanity and loneliness, and Up wouldn't have made us dream of flying with balloons. Disney, without Pixar's emotional depth, might have focused solely on licensing IPs. And what about Apple? Even if Jobs returned without Pixar, he might never have developed the sense to turn products into art. The iPod would have been just a capable MP3 player, and the iPhone a smartphone with a physical keypad. The App Store might have launched much later, or never at all. As a result, the very smartphone ecosystem we use today might look entirely different. YouTube, Instagram, mobile games, food delivery apps. At the root of them all was a smartphone that understood emotion. And at the root of that was Steve Jobs, who had learned emotion at Pixar. One man's dismissal. It wasn't a failure, it was a turning point. Technology that understands emotion, devices that carry stories. And even that first whisper a toy gives to a child. If Jobs hadn't been fired, Toy Story might never have existed. And in that case, perhaps toys would have never spoken. And now, your small action of subscribing to this channel might just change the next scene of your life. At the very least, your algorithm will.